Hi class, my name is Grace and my partner is Lauren, and we decided to do Is Organic Food Better for You? We chose this because we were curious as we heard rumors that there wasn't that big of a difference and that some people advocate for only eating organic like Tom Brady and like Joan Jett. So we wanted to know if there was any like research to back up those rumors.
So, a lot of people, myself included, are kind of unsure about what organic food is. So, basically, organic food is produced without harmful chemicals or additives such as fertilizer, antibiotics, or pesticides, which is completely the opposite of traditional farming, where they use all those things in one way or another to create their food. GMOs are genetically modified foods. They are not in organic food ever. And also, a good thing to note is that organic food is not the same as natural food, which is a common misconception. They kind of sound like they would be the same thing, like organic is natural. No, it's not. They're not the same thing. Natural food is more like no artificial flavors, no preservatives, but natural food does sometimes, have fertilizer or pesticides in order to create it, whereas organic food does not. Also, this information came from the Complete Guide to Organic Livestock Farming, which is a book. All of our sources are at the bottom of all of our slides. If you guys want to read up or look it up, anything.
To start off our presentation, some pros about organic food would be that it's grown with natural fertilizer instead of chemical or synthetic fertilizers that conventional farming uses. This is one really important factor that consumers should think about when buying their produce. This is one way for us to kind of control what goes out into the environment, but of course it is more expensive. Organic farming promotes a self-sustaining farm cycle due to many factors, but one being that pests and weeds are controlled naturally via traps for pests and tilling or mulching for weeds. The next pro can also be seen as a con, but it's up to you. It's kind of up to the consumer. But organic food is usually fresher as it doesn't have preservatives to keep it fresh for as long. This is good for like people who are really sensitive about their health or that are health nuts, but this is not the most practical option for people who only go to the grocery store once a week or are on a tight budget. Another pro is that organic farming requires livestock to go outside, which is really great because I think we are all aware of how inhumane meat farming is. So if you were to buy organic, I think this would be the most important place to support organic farming. Another thing is that organic farming is better for the environment. It reduces pollution, conserves energy, promotes clean water, and it also reduces soil erosion, which we'll get into later.
So there are a lot of cons actually to organic food. First of all, it's more expensive since farmers do not use chemicals or artificial methods. There is less production, meaning there's less products to sell. And also, it does not last as long due to the lack of preservatives in the food. It's also not always available in stores. And it's more labor intensive because it takes more time for the weeds to be killed and bugs to be killed with all the chemicals. And also, organic food has a higher level of bacteria, which is found in the food, such as E. coli, because of the lack of chemicals, fertilizer. It doesn't kill all that bad stuff like traditional farming would. So you have to take that into consideration as well when deciding if you want to purchase organic food.
Now for a bit, we are busting myths about organic food. I'm obviously Jamie, and Lauren is Adam from Mythbusters. And our first myth to bust is organic food safer because it doesn't touch pesticides? This is a false statement because the title organic doesn't necessarily make it pesticide free. In fact, some of them are even grown with them. If you want to make sure it's pesticide free, I would try to shop local more than at like a conventional, more than at like a grocery store. But yeah, some are even grown with them. The USDA came up with that 39% of the 571 organic food sample they tested had pesticide residue. So this means that the pesticides that the organic farmers used are up to the EPA standard, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, but they still are pesticides on the organic produce. So if you're shopping organic, to avoid that, you should probably pay more attention to the label and do a little bit more research to see if that farm uses pesticides at all. The second myth is that organic food is healthier. We discussed in the beginning of the semester that it's difficult to define what health or healthy is, right? So when you compare organic produce to conventional, of course organic is going to be slightly better, but it doesn't necessarily make the difference of us being healthier. It might be healthier for the environment, or it might have a couple extra nutrients, which of course would be beneficial, but it's not beneficial enough to say that it makes us a healthier person. According to planetforward.org, there is a lack of evidence that shows organic food is more nutritious than conventional. So people that are saying like, oh, buy like organic apples or stuff like that because there's more vitamins, like there's not really solid evidence that supports that. So I mean, if you can buy organic and you're doing it for the environment, that's good. But if you're on a tight budget, then I would just stick with conventional personally.
So another myth is that GMOs are bad for the environment, but that is not true. GMOs make crops more resistant to diseases. Also, crop protection is the main reason why GMOs are used. GMO crops help to decrease carbon dioxide emissions. That is equal to removing 16.7 million cars off the road. That was in 2016. GMOs helped reduce the amount of pesticides used and increased crop production by 22% over the past 20 years. Our last myth is that GMOs are dangerous to eat. A lot of times you'll see restaurants that advertise that they don't use GMOs in their food. You'll see that with Chipotle and Panera Bread too, but they're actually not really dangerous to eat. It's debunked. The National Academy of Sciences states that GMO crops are just as safe to eat as crops without them. GMO foods must meet the same exact safety standards as FDA-approved products. GMOs actually enhance flavor and nutritional value in food as well. Also, a lot of people are concerned that GMOs will lead to like obesity, diabetes, cancer, allergies, anything like that. But research has shown that there's no exact links that correlate those together to GMOs.
A lot of people buy organic produce to avoid pesticides, but organic foods are allowed to use natural pesticides according to the USDA organic program. Research from Stanford University suggests that there's no difference in health when eating organic. In this study, they looked for effects on pregnant women, which you know are already pretty conscious about what they intake, and they studied to see if there would be effects on their offspring, if they were to have eczema in the future or food allergies or anything like that. But the study found that there was no clear benefit of eating organic, so the offspring didn't have any birth defects. The US EPA, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, states that they are confident that the fruits and vegetables that we eat are safer than ever. And under the FQPA, the Food Quality Protection Act, the EPA must ensure that the pesticides are up to the FQPA standard. So one way they ensure this is that the EPA checks and reevaluates the pesticides used for safety concerns every 15 years. Personally, I think they should do it much more often than that. I would try maybe 5 years and check like a bundle of them and go about that way instead of checking every pesticide every 15 years. Just because every 15 years seems like kind of a long time to know if there is any effects going on. If there is, then it's like majority of my life I've been eating something that's potentially harmful. Anyways, another myth people have about pesticides is that they think it makes food unedible or harmful. While eating pesticides is obviously not good for you, it doesn't necessarily make things unedible. You have to eat like a copious amount of pesticides to have really negative health effects on your body. The USDA pesticide data program detects residues at levels far lower than those that are considered health risks.
As far as economics goes, buying local keeps money within the local economy instead of it being spent on marketing and distribution. Organic food is on a much smaller scale, it's much more local as a whole. Also, conventional farming is on the decline, but organic farming is one of the fastest growing segments in US agriculture. Like, although technically organic farms are only found on, or organic farming land is only found on 1.4% of land globally out of the whole world, it's still on the rise. It's growing rather quickly, while traditional farming is declining. Starting organic farming costs less because you don't need pesticides and other chemicals. And also, people are willing to pay a lot more for organic products. It's very scarce. You don't see it a lot everywhere. So people, when they do see it, they get all excited about it. Even just in the name, like, ooh, organic food. Like, that sounds fancy. That sounds hip and trendy. I've heard good stuff about that. So people get really excited and they want to buy it. So they're willing to pay a lot more for it. Also, there's not as many organic products. So that's why they also have to pump up the prices for that too. Organic farming helps soil and land issues such as erosion, and that means that healthier soil means that you can grow more, which is perfect for farmers. And organic crops are more drought resistant, which means that you can still grow crops but with less water.
As for environmental effects, organic farming promotes more ethical and environmentally friendly practices, and this is what we are really paying extra for. So if you're paying extra for pesticides, stop that. You're paying or more for organic produce because it's just better for the environment. Organic farming helps against soil erosion, which is the loss of fertile land. This is really important because if the land is stripped of all its nutrients, then there's really like no purpose for it anymore, really, for farming, because you can't get much yield out of it. Soil erosion can lead to an increase in pollution, soil acidity problems, loss of structure, etc. Organic farming also reduces pollution as it keeps water clean from harmful pesticides and toxic fertilizers. This is really important because if these harmful pesticides and fertilizers make their way into a body of water, then it'll eventually get polluted and it would kill off the living organisms that depend on that body of water, which will then change the stability of the food chain in the environment. So it's kind of messing with a lot of stuff if the runoff gets to a body of water. Also, organic farming saves energy. There was a 22-year study conducted in Ithaca, New York, where they grew corn and soybeans, and they saved about 30% of energy compared to conventional farming, and they had the same amount of yield. This is not the case for every organic farm, but overall organic farming uses about 20% less energy due to it using renewable practices and relying on natural and biological techniques to keep the crops healthy. we talked earlier about them using tilling and mulching and traps for pests and weeds. So,
To wrap up our presentation, is eating organic food better for you? Not necessarily. There's not really any major benefits that organic food is way better for you than traditional farmed foods. There's no way crazy benefits that'll really help you out in the future or anything. But as far as organic food being better for the environment, yeah, it does help out the environment if you want to look at it that way, which is a plus. If you want to spend a little extra money to get the organic food, if you think that that's better for you and your lifestyle, that's totally fine. But a lot of people think that organic food has way more benefits than traditional farmed foods, and that's not necessarily true. So just do what's best for you, whatever you want to do. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and you have a great rest of your day.